back to the Insights in Autism series. If you have missed part 1 and part 2 of our discussion with Ms. Sherilyn Walton, I recommend you go check those out. We're going to continue with part 3 of the series now, talking about big picture views of how special education in Oklahoma are going, and then how you as a parent can improve inclusion opportunities. So last we talked about ways that in an IEP meeting you can advocate for your child. What would you say are some ways that parents can improve or increase inclusion opportunities for their kids? Because I know that's an issue that a lot of parents are concerned about.
Mm-hmm. Well, interestingly enough, when I began this job many years ago, the call I got from parents was generally, please help me get my child out of the special education room and into an inclusive setting. Now the question and the plea is different. It's, my child seems to be drowning where they are. They're overwhelmed. They can't keep up. So inclusion has really gone from nothing to everything. And I think I would like to see the ability of schools to offer more of what they're supposed to, which is a continuum of placement options in the districts. But that is becoming very, very hard.
So not all inclusive gen ed classrooms, but also not sort of self-contained classrooms, somewhere in the middle.
Right.
So how does that look? What should parents know before they ask for more inclusion, or even if they are in a special education classroom, what supports are in place there that they would benefit from that they might miss out on if they're just in an inclusive classroom?
Well, of course, particularly younger children, special education services are really critical. Often children have issues in the core subjects, which are reading, language arts, math. And so the idea is that we really want to support them and give them some extra time in a setting that can really individualize what they need. As they get older, sometimes those options are less, and we find that the kids tend to just be in general ed classrooms. And if we're going to do that, we need to have a lot of support in the general ed classroom.
Supports in terms of the general education teachers, kind of personnel, in terms of their education. How do the supports look, and what would you recommend parents request in that discussion?
Well, they can look several different ways. A lot of the time we see a special ed teacher that sometimes does what we call push in to the general ed class and helps the student in that general ed setting. There's para support, and paras are, many parents feel like their child needs a one-on-one para, and that's very rarely the case. Paras really should be there as a supportive person who helps that child feel included and get along better academically and socially. It's a very fine line for paras to be just enough but not too much. So sometimes a one-on-one para is really not the answer. But I would like to see more support for general ed teachers when they do have special ed students in their class.
Sure, so lots of grabs and push-ins and more kind of para role that gets faded out over time.
Yes.
Two options. So I guess broadly speaking, how do you see the special education landscape changing over time? You've been doing this for a while. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse?
Well, in some ways, I think we're in really some difficult times because as a state, we are struggling with finding and keeping teachers. Students used to go into education a lot and special education. Now it's very difficult to find them. And I think part of that is that we need to add more support, financial support funding for the schools. We have had some increases in funding, and the teachers have been very vocal about that. But we know we've lost a lot of teachers to other states, and I would like to see the legislature really prioritize education, because I think the dividends are long-lasting. We want to be a state that attracts businesses, and one of the first questions new businesses ask is, what is it about Oklahoma that would appeal to us in your public schools? So I think everyone knows that we need to really put more resources there.
So better pay for teachers, and then other resources in terms of training and
yes.
Their options. Okay.
Class size is another thing, that we hear a lot about. So decreasing class size would really help.
For special education and general education?
Both, yes.
Gotcha. And then how can people who are viewing this support your role at TARC? So you guys are not-for-profit. You don't charge for your services coming into IP meetings. What can people do to support you guys?
Well, we do have several different ways that they can support us. One is tell others about us. We are always interested in other funding sources because we like the fact that we don't have to charge our families. Mm-hmm. Many of them are not able to pay. So that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about this work is that I don't have to ask that of parents. But we are always looking for interested people who know what we do and support our mission. And we would welcome any support we can get.
Your name is very well known in the community. You do very good work, and I'm sure everyone's going to really enjoy hearing these thoughts and perspectives that you've shared with me today. So
thank you, Matt.
Appreciate you being here. So this is the last part of part 3 of our 3-part series with Ms. Sherilyn Walton. If you missed the first 2, make sure you check those out. And thank you again for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me.